Well, this weekend in Sacramento, the community is coming together for a powerful cause. The 9th annual Seize the Moment Run for Epilepsy is taking place. The event raises awareness about seizures and SUDEP. And joining us this morning to talk more about this, Executive Director of the Epilepsy Foundation of Northern California, Natalia Sucher.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it. Let's start here before we talk about the run. The numbers are striking right now. Can you break down how often we're seeing seizures across the U.S.?
Well, actually, 1 in 26 people are diagnosed or will be diagnosed with epilepsy in the U.S. at some point in their life. And 1 in 10 people will have a seizure at some point in their life.
Yeah.
California is the state with the highest number of people with epilepsy out of the states in the United States. So I think it's really important California, stand up for epilepsy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's a misconception, too, about epilepsy. Some folks may think that, well, if I'm not born with it, I probably won't get diagnosed with it, but that's not exactly true. You can be diagnosed later in life.
That's exactly right, especially as changes in your brain happen, whether you fall off a motorcycle or you have an extremely high fever. There's multiple ways that someone might have a seizure that isn't necessarily diagnosed when they're a child. There's a lot of other ways, but
Sure.
I'm only scratching the surface here.
Yeah, it's definitely, there's a lot of factors to it. And I think one of the interesting thing is everybody is very familiar with epilepsy by this point, but there's not a lot of funding that goes towards it. Talk about just that struggle, because again, that's something that you directly involve yourself with as far as trying to raise awareness and money for this.
Absolutely. I think one of the big factors for increasing epilepsy awareness and giving the services that people need is making sure we do have the funding, whether that's state funding or even private funding through donors. As a matter of fact, I believe Representative Michelle Rodriguez recently sponsored a piece of legislation that was meant to help with funding for epilepsy at a state level. I believe it's the California Epilepsy Program, and I want to thank Epilepsy Foundation of LA for really helping with that.
Let's talk about SUDEP. Did I pronounce that correctly?
You did.
Okay, so what is that and why should folks be aware of that?
So SUDEP stands for Sudden Unexpected Death in Epilepsy. And unfortunately, some people with epilepsy might pass away because of a seizure, either at night or due to suffocation or cardiac arrest. Some causes of death in epilepsy or seizures aren't known to the state, but we want to make sure people know it's important to take seizures seriously and to practice seizure first aid.
And of course, as far as Saturday's run, everyone's invited.
Absolutely.
Where is it and how can folks sign up?
They can go to www.epilepsynorcal.org/run. We'll be in Crocker Park starting at 7 a.m. tomorrow, which is Saturday the 28th. And we'd love to see you there. Please come and support the epilepsy community.
And again, raising awareness, just one step at a time. All right.
Yes.
Thank you so much for joining us. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you so much.